letting me down. I'm going to be very anxious about the connection all the time. I hope it works, but let me try to share the preparation I've made for today. No, probably not, you know. Yes, yeah. Yes or no? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot see it, but better than you. So basically we sent you the thematic areas they would like to discuss. Of course, these are open, but the idea of today's discussion is to develop something like a policy or practice learning element. Of course, we are very happy, and I was really impressed and very inspired by today's presentation. It is incredible to work during the project, and a completely different experience to have the experience from the project partners on the topic, and to be able to follow it in the context all through the 2 years. So that's the idea. Now I don't know what you see. This is funny, but I would like to suggest that we try to follow the 5 areas, maybe to touch upon them. Then if nobody has any objection to recording, this session will be recorded and transcribed, and you will receive the transcription and be able to delete or add whatever you would like to, so that we can then also make a report as additional evidence on the initiative trying to launch some programs supporting basic skills. Now I will try to. This is very funny. Okay, and I don't know whether you see me or the presentation.
We see both. We see you and the presentation.
Oh.
The 5 bullet points.
This works because I tried to find the way to do this, and it actually happened. I don't know how, so I will leave it there.
Your digital skills is excellent.
Yes, but I don't think I will be able to repeat this because I don't know how it happened. So I would go to the first area, which is the role of public sector. We were extremely happy that during the cooperation with the Central Office for Labour, we have Raster from there. They really incredibly well grasped the problematic and really started to put the project result into practice. Now there is also a space for the sector of education, for the cooperation between the two. And we are now also working on putting an element on basic skills programs to the strategy. But the question to all of you, and I would probably suggest that we all just spend a minute or two on this, is how do you see this could be best initiated, and what is your experience with efficient and good role of public sector in this, especially for the sector of education, Ministry of Education and its organizations? And if that's okay, I will start with our foreign guests, with Jan, Derwil, Alex, and then Orla, and then we will do the local round.
My sound on, that's an advantage. Yes, thank you very much. Unfortunately, my name is Jan Evensen, and I'm representing today the European Basic Skills Network, the EBSN. I gather that most of you know what EBSN are, but just in case, we are a non-profit association who are gathering policymakers and providers engaged in basic skills training for adults all over Europe. And today we have more than 80 members from different countries in Europe, and we have 4 members from Slovakia at the time being. I think that what I thought was unfortunately, I was not able to follow the whole conference from the beginning. There was some technical error there for me, so I only got the last part, but it was very interesting. And I think you have a very good project. My experience and EBSN's experience is, of course, mostly from basic skills in working life. But I think it was very interesting and very positive to see that in your project that you focused on a wide range of basic skills training, and also including basic skills in social life, and that you are including all groups, also all age groups. I think especially that's the focus on young people, dropouts from school and needs is quite interesting. I think that it was also interesting when you talk about how to support the basic skills program, that several of the speakers stressed the fact that the valid and relevant basic skills training should be delivered on a non-formal base. It's important to remember that many of the people in the target groups have little or bad experience from ordinary schools. And I think that basic skills training must be delivered in a context. I think the context of the target group is very important, and that we deliver it and have focus on delivering it in a way that feels relevant for the participants. Either we talk about working or social life. So this is, when we talk about, my thesis, when we talk about the public sector, is that everything is best when it is delivered by those who are closest to the target groups. And that the main role of the public sector should be the financing role.
Thank you. So Darwell?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Derva Lawless, and I'm the head of advocacy in AINTIS. We're the National Adult Learning Organisation in Ireland. I won't go into too much detail because some of you might have seen my video earlier. I wore the same dress to make it look like it was live. So I think the main things, I probably have said much of this earlier on, and Jan has really hit the nail on the head on some of the points that I wanted to make, is about the importance of funding local community-based programs and making sure that those programs are situated in the context of the learners that they're aiming to access or support. So, for example, if you were to support the Roma community, that you would provide basic education in the context most suitable to them, with members from their community delivering those programs and involved in the design of those programs. It's not appropriate to have a program delivered to a group of people and to push our values and beliefs in that. So to present role models or a curriculum that is based on the majority kind of white middle class group from Slovenia, it should be based on the program that's most suitable for that community in that context. So I think ensuring that the programs are flexible, potentially starting with non-formal education, as Jan said, welcoming people in, letting them come in and just make themselves feel, trusting the people that work there, building relationships, and then moving hopefully on to more formal accredited programs. But it takes time, and I think it needs to be a slow and supported process. I think another really important area is making sure that the tutors and the staff involved not only represent the community that they're working with, if possible, but also that they're qualified adult educators. As much as any person with a secondary or like a school education qualification has the best intentions, I think, and they may be an excellent educator, they will quite often work from a very different mindset, because the pedagogy that they've been working with is working with children. And we need to respect the fact that adults have a huge wealth of life experience. They also have other commitments, and that adult education is very different than school education. And I think then the final thing that I would add is making sure that it is all very positive. It should never be from a deficit model, making someone feel that they aren't good enough, or if they left school or they have low educational attainment or any educational barriers, that it was their fault. Like, my personal belief would be that the majority of the time the system has failed those people for multiple reasons. And we need to make sure that when we do bring people back, that they see it as a really positive affirmation of them doing something where they're moving forward in their life, and we're encouraging them to make that change. But it's about building capacity, empowering people, building self-esteem, and it should be really, really positive. And I think sharing learner stories and highlighting how powerful adult learning can be a very positive part of that process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually left out the introductory round because I thought we are, together. I live in virtual space. So I will just leave it up to now. My name is Ivana. I worked as an expert, and I hope most of you know me. And I will just ask other contributors then with the first contribution, maybe if they feel they need to introduce themselves, to do so shortly. Apologies on my side. So I will give word to Alex.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alex Stevenson. I'm Head of Essential and Life Skills at the Learning and Work Institute in the UK. I'm also on the Executive Committee at EBSN and an Executive Board member at EAEA. Unfortunately, I've not seen the earlier part of the conference this morning, but I have, as coincidence would have it, been working on a report this morning which addresses many of these issues, and particularly thinking about the different levels involved here, national, regional and local, and how that supports the delivery of basic skills. And in the UK, what we've started to see in the last, well, actually specifically in England, what we've started to see in the last couple of years is a shift away from a very centralized national system of funding and policy for basic skills towards more of a regional and a devolved system, with some of the money and some of the resources gone to some of our large cities to determine how best to develop a basic skills provision for local people. Obviously, the key element of this, as the other contributors have already said, is around that local understanding and engagement with local people, development of tailored provision that really addresses those needs and so on. But I think it's interesting to reflect on what value might be added at some of those regional and national levels beyond the provision of funding. And obviously, I think the funding is key. It's got to come from somewhere. But some of the things that we've been looking at, where there may be an enhanced role at the regional or national level, particularly, it's around sort of determining the strategy and helping to answer some of those key questions. So, who has a basic skills need? Where are these needs located, either geographically or in certain demographics of the population? So, conducting research, engaging with stakeholders, or other organisations across not just learning providers, but more broadly across other public services who may come into contact with people with basic skills needs. And there's a job to be done there somewhere, perhaps at the regional level, or where to go in depth and work out who the target cohorts are. And then in our system, it kind of depends on what the existing infrastructure is, but we have quite a fragmented landscape of different public services and different kinds of learning providers and so on. And there's a real job to be done there to share information between different kinds of organisations, join things up and try to coordinate delivery. So if you are working, let's say, in a housing association, and you identify that some of your tenants, they don't have the basic skills to manage their finances, to pay the rent, they struggle to access the public services, to report a repair to their property or something that needs doing. Actually, as a housing association, you're really well placed to identify some of those basic skills needs, but you need to have the links with the learning providers to refer people effectively. So there's a job there to be done at perhaps at a regional or local level in joining things up. And I think the other final one there is a broader piece of work to be done around raising awareness of basic skills needs that is perhaps best led at something above the local level, whether that's regionally across a city or even as a national campaign. We've had success in the UK with both of those approaches in various initiatives in the past, and there's that whole thing around basic skills where something needs to be done to try to tackle some of the stigma that people often feel, perhaps, about not having good literacy or numeracy skills, and helping them to overcome those barriers to come forward themselves and access provision. And I think that's something that benefits from being offered at a wider level than the local.
Thank you very much. And I will give word to Orla.
Hi, my name is Orla. I started working for Aentus 3 weeks ago, so it's brilliant to be here and to be hearing all of your opinions and viewpoints. So I suppose for me, my view would certainly reflect a lot of what's already been said, and I would definitely, strongly agree with the idea of identifying needs is one thing, but creating a program that is genuinely, reflective of a learner's needs and is not an imposed template, but rather something that's catered to have a meaningful impact is definitely the way to go. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me start the Slovak round with today, the most important person who has, thanks to whom we have the project and everything, and that is Lubica Galova. Floor is yours.
Hello, nice to have you, all of you here this afternoon, and thank you for your support, and thank you for your initial comments on the topic which Ivana selected for the roundtable, because within the project, in fact, we revealed the facts that you have already mentioned, that a lot of or some work has been done in the area of basic skills. A lot of this work has been done by organizations which are not public, which are NGOs and community centers. But what we have learned is that it's quite difficult for these organizations to provide sustainable work, although the expertise which they have is unreplaceable. So the public institution, from my point of view, and also on the basis of the facts we have found out, is that the public sector should build on this expertise and try to find ways how to help this organization sustain their capacities and help them financing. On the other hand, we also learned that NGOs and other organizations working in the field with low qualified people have very or need a lot partnerships with local administrations, municipalities, and I think it's vice versa. So I think that the partnerships between public and public sector and civil society organization which support these vulnerable groups and basic skills development should be the key.
Thank you very much. Now the word goes to Ildiko Patova, who is our key contact and the person who is now bearing the burden of all the topics on lifelong learning at the moment at the ministry. We do hope that it will change so that there is a real capacity. But if you want to add something, Ildiko, to the topic on basic skills.
Yes, thank you very much for the word, and nice to see you all, at least in that distance. I haven't been joining the project before, but I'm really glad that you were very successful in this project, and thank you very much for all your work, what you did so far. So from my point of like a policy making, it's always a nice word, but actually what does that mean for the citizen? So as I see, it's very important that the lifelong strategy reflects what we need in Slovakia, what the Slovakian citizens need, and also that we reflect these needs within the lifelong learning law. So for us, really, this is, I would say, a kind of umbrella issue to make these things also work in reality. Then later on, the public funding can be directed straightforwardly towards the needs and towards those who need it the most. From the presentations, what I heard in the morning, what is very important that you mentioned about the certificate on the basic skills. And already there was an issue that what we talk about, the Slovak qualification framework, that we intend, so far we've got only the level 1. And we say that this is level 1, still not enough to have all the people who lack the skills to start their qualification route, or at least start their, I would say, mission and vision towards a qualified person. So we have to specify these skills, the knowledge level, the competence levels, even below like 0 or -1 level. It's really rude to say -1 level, but this is something that we try to encourage people to start somewhere. As long as we are talking about long educational program, I know that for those people who need it most, it wouldn't work. So we have to shorten it up. We have to give them a kind of paper, a kind of certificate or something that can be proud of, and then continue the basic skills achievement and these issues. So for me, this is really the crucial, that we start building it into the lifelong learning strategy and the law. Another issue is what already mentioned by the funding. And for me personally, I think that building of the self-esteem of those people, it's really very important, as you said already. So they have to understand that learning is their own need, that they would learn later on by themselves. So I think I just keep fingers crossed for the project, or maybe continuation of the project, but definitely from my side, I really do my best to help the project going and also these issues in Slovak Republic. Thank you so far.
Thank you very much. And I would ask one of the key project partners, which is Association of Adult Learning Institutions, and Claudius Schilhard, to give us his view on the role of the public sector with respect to basic skills. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Thank you for the possibility to say a few words about this. My name is Claudius Schilhár, and I represent Association of Adult Education Institutions in Slovakia. We are a proud member of EAA and EBSN. And this year we will celebrate hopefully 30 years anniversary of our institution, which has 107 members institutions that dealt with adult education. And to the question of what can be the role, what is the possible role of public sector in this, I can think of 3 maybe areas. First is to name to name it properly, the sector and the problem, because we don't have a adult education, adult learning and education sector developed in this way. We are talking about lifelong learning, and even the department was abolished at our Ministry of Schooling. So we have a very difficult situation with the proper naming, proper terminology in education, and we still are in conserves in, I would say, Maria Theresia times. So the first thing is to name the problem properly, and the second problem I can see that we should tackle is the governance. Who is responsible for what in addressing basic skills? There is a part of Ministry of Education, Ministry of Schooling, and part of Ministry of Labor. And I think this project was the very good example how could things should be solved. That Shiov was able to make a very good cooperation, and it was kind of I don't know how to say it correctly in English, partisan. It was a bottom-up approach, and I think this could work.
Clandestine, I think that's the word.
Sorry?
I think it could be clandestine, the word, but I might.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and my experience is that I should agree that it should be done from regional, those who are closest to the target group, and we are definitely missing the funding. So we should focus on supporting community education and creating a systematic financial tool for motivation of individuals to improve their basic skills. That's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, project partner is the Central Office for Labor and Social Affairs. So I give words to those who are already working in the practice with the project results. Ras.
Hello, thank you for word and for this opportunity. I am a representative of Central Labor, Social Affairs and Family, and in this project we were responsible for creation of methodology of assessment, the topic of basic skills. I'm very happy that my institution could be part of this big and complex problematic, because they are very important to cooperate between educational sector and between labor sector. As it was mentioned, the topic of basic skills is very important, especially for people who need to adapt on changing of our society and labor market opportunities. So I'm very happy to be here and could discuss about this topic.
Thank you very much. I can see Jan's hand raised, but we still have one person in the round. Do you want a quick reaction, Jan?
Yes, I was just thinking, when we talk about public sector, we always think about public funding, as it is the same. And I think that one of the more interesting or very interesting part of the conference was from the last part with this managing director from Whirlpool. And I think that the public sector, when they talk about basic skills training, and especially basic skills training in working life, of course, is it very important that the public sector is a binding lead between the private sector and the public sector. And I see a shift because I've been working with basic skills in working life for more than 10 years in Norway. And in Norway, we are in a lucky position because we have a very strong economy and the funding has always been very accessible. But we now see a very clear shift from the last 2-3 years where the private sectors see that they have to do something to obtain the labor force and to improve their labor force. And this is very much connected with basic skills training. And as I said in my video in the conference, the link between basic skills training and formal competence. Because the labor market is changing so rapidly now. And if the companies want to keep their workers, they have to do something about themselves. And they very often have financial incentives to do it. And I think it's important not to forget that. It's not always just a question of public funding. It's also a question about pushing the right buttons in the companies, in the private sector.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, the question was meant to discuss also other than funding roles, but I will come back to that. And let me finish the first round by inviting one of the best adult learning NGOs in Slovakia, and Ms. Marta Jendekova, who accepted our invitation to represent NGO sector from the point of view also providers, but also active stakeholders in this area, and to have her contribution on this topic.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. As you heard, my name is Marta Jendekova, and I thank Ivana for this great PR. I'm just sorry that not all of Slovakia is listening. I have been proud to work with most of the Slovak experts on this panel during the previous project, and I feel that the project BLUESS is very much related to our own project effort, and that's why I'm very happy to be here. Also on personal level, as I have been following the BLUESS progression and thoughts, etc. If I was given a chance today to go for a new career path, I think I would consider very much to help with the basic skills development. Anyway, the project that we worked on was called MOVED, and it dealt with designing an effective policy on adult learning, so in more general way than specifically basic skills. And we looked at the regional level of public administration. That was interesting for us to see how they deal with adult learning. Now we are also happy to continue with this topic, and we have another project, and now we look at the local level, at the level of cities and towns. And we are again trying to examine how much is the policy on adult learning in general embedded in their strategy plans, etc. And that leads me to my main comment, basically to our topic, that before coming to the actual programs for basic skills, I believe that here we have to acknowledge that we need to deal with the low-skilled people, that we need to pay attention to them. I believe that the national level will be treated because the BLUESS team has got the access to the national level. But from what I have talked and interviewed and studied the documents on the regional and local levels, there we need to make everybody aware that adults are a part of the education efforts in the country, and they should be treated within all the lifelong learning strategies, etc. And specifically, the group of low-skilled people need their attention because they have very specific needs, and that the local level is the one that can help, that can really facilitate the contacts that are needed. So this is for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have two additional stakeholders and institutions present here. And we have two, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have two persons from the Ministry of Interior, from the plenipotentiary for Roma communities, and that's Mr. Tibor Škrapski and Ms. Etela Vaněková. So I will leave it up to you to contribute together or individually on the topic of how you see the role of public sector, and then I will introduce the last member of this roundtable. I only see they are connected. I don't see them actually on the videos. Ms. Vaněková or Mr. Škrapski?
Yes, hello.
Yes, okay.
My name is Barbara, actually, Vaněk. Sorry for this. Yes, I'm representative of Plenipotentiary Office for Roma Communities. I apologize, I'm quite new in project called BLUESS, so I don't know that much about this project. but currently at the office we are working on a strategy of Roma inclusion, participation and equality, where big part is education, and we of course deal with this topic of lifelong learning and participation of Roma adults in learning, especially marginalized adults in any learning opportunities, not only on behalf of their participation in labor market, but also the quality of their life. And we also cooperate with some of you. Yesterday we had a meeting on a lifelong learning strategy. So I hope our cooperation will be bigger and bigger. And I just want to maybe highlight one thing that, yes, basic skills of these Roma marginalized, especially adult marginalized, it needs some new ways, some new methods of their inclusion, because this traditional method of upskilling through labor offices, requalification courses, etc., is not working very well. On our experience, what is working very well is so-called complex approach, comprehensive approach, where some facilitator, let's say social worker or community worker, is facilitating the whole complex situation of Roma adult living in a community, not only from the point of his or her employment opportunities, but also social advisory system, counseling, facilitating many family and personal situations in the life of adult. And this approach, like role of social worker, community worker, school worker, when they cooperate, it's something what works towards Roma marginalized. And I also would like to highlight some new approaches what I researched recently, not in Slovakia, we don't have many programs, but abroad in whole Europe and America, it is working already several years. Those programs are focused not only adults, but let's say intergenerational learning. And this is something what really works in Roma communities when Roma adults participate with their children on programs of learning. And it is already researched in Slovakia as well, that when we learn children together with their parents, they are able to build their own, of adults, basic skills. Because as we know, we have many Roma which are not literate, and they can, by this way, together with children, there is a huge motivation to gain their own literacies. So we have some experiences, we offer a cooperation, but I don't know how deeply to go at this moment. So from my side, for this moment, that's it.
Thank you very much. This is very interesting, and of course, I'm sure that the cooperation is now developing in practice. Mr. Škrabski, I don't know if you want to add to that, or you want to join on other questions.
I'm fine so far. Thank you, Barbara, for your intervention. So we are ready to follow the discussion.
Thank you. So I would give the word to Edita Rigova. Edita, if you can hear me. I don't.
Yes.
Yes. So who is from a leading think? Yes, and we invited Edita. Also, she's from a leading think tank and works on the topics. But they recently concluded a big experimental project on second chance education for young needs from marginalized Roma communities. So I think there are big overlaps, and I just wonder if you want to step in and maybe share with us your views on how the public sector, maybe also outside second chance education, but more towards basic skills, but how you would want to respond to this topic.
Thank you for word. Hello everyone. My name is Edita and I'm representing NGO sector, as was said. I work on research in the field of second chance education and also in the field or on the project that is focused on education of young people that are attending schools in remote localities or areas. In my opinion, public institutions should play a role as a motivator. So they should motivate other institutions or also maybe NGOs, either to sustain the capacities and also to provide financing. And I think also in terms of incentives. So also including these schools which provide second chance education, but because the financing there is insufficient. But outside of the box, I think that they should also provide incentives to build opportunities to teach or provide target group with the basic skills, like, for example, reading comprehension that we found out that it's really a problem in some localities, or counting, etc. And as for now, you see that there is not really a focus, in my opinion, on these needs. We know of them, but I don't see really actions. And I think also that, yeah, the role shouldn't be only in financing, but the role that the public sector should play is also in connecting institutions, providing or creating space for networking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I do hope I have closed the round and didn't leave anyone. So basically all of our participants today have spoken and we know each other. And I would suggest that now I will not do the rounds and ask you, but leave the discussion more open with everybody contributing when he wants. But I would maybe a bit reshuffle the questions and now focus and stay with the public sector and the public funding. And maybe to our foreign participants, I would just introduce briefly the context that as for now, the basic skills have not been targeted as an intervention area in Slovakia. So we don't really have the recognition that we want to target and develop public skills, basic skills. And what is happening and what we have mapped and confirmed is that some NGOs are actually doing and working with target groups, a bit supporting some types of basic skills. And we do know, and we have been previously discussing even with regional governments, how to support these NGOs efficiently with not too administratively difficult schemes. We have quite a difficult public tendering system. There are tactical problems if the NGOs are involved in schemes which are funded from the structural funds. On the other hand, we have structural funds which have not been used yet. So there is the funding which has not been tapped into yet. So maybe just to be very practical from your experience, but also from the Slovak participants, how they can communicate on what problems they see, because some of the partners have been involved in schemes. How could we push this and what could be the recommendations from the national level? So let's try and launch this initiative with this type of funding. For example, we do need some systematic funding for basic skills initiation for providers who have a track record working with a target group. So that's one of the type of recommendations I had in mind. Is there a volunteer to start with? Is there a volunteer to start this round?
Can I? Hello, I raised my hand. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very true that the systematic public funding for the basic skill development is missing, and I would like to note that we know about the situation, and when it comes to, you mentioned the structural funds, now we are preparing the new programming period of the structural funds, and we are ready to test several interventions, especially, of course, in Roma communities where we work. And one of these interventions would be the capacity building of Roma inhabitants in our communities, because we see that so far it was more about the social services, like offering the services to our clients, and it was much less about the capacity building of themselves, so they would be able to pass the different life situations on their own. So in the context of the basic skills, we are planning to introduce so-called development teams in our communities, where they would comprehensively work with all the inhabitants, like young people and also adults, on development of their skills, so they would be able not only to solve their situations from the point of view of social health care and so on, but also what we see as very important thing, also concerning the participation at policy making at local levels. This is something which we really miss, because when we provide some services in Roma communities, it's usually about the two types of communities, so the majority and minority. They live in their worlds, not connecting much. So this is something that we would like to focus on basic skills development in this sense, and also putting the community, we mean community as such, like a village or a neighborhood, to be able to support themselves. So these would be our plans for the next programming period, in order to test what are the ways how we as a public sector can support the capacity building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please, Alex.
Thank you. Yeah, just some reflections on the funding point from me, really. I think obviously there's a range of roles that funding can play. One of the most central ones of those is funding for the actual delivery of programs itself. I think my recommendation on that would be to look really carefully at what the metrics are for those programs, and what kinds of outcomes does the funding mechanism incentivize, because that can really it's really something that can influence how programs are delivered, and it may not always lead to the outcomes that are the most intended. So in England, for example, we spent a long time with a system that was measured through the delivery of formal qualifications, and there's nothing wrong with those formal qualifications. They were very useful, but the extent to which the funding was linked so closely to the qualifications meant that providers were incentivized just to deliver the qualifications to people who already had skills at that level. And so there was a lot of dead weight, and a lot of the money that was spent didn't actually benefit the people with the most profound basic skills needs. And despite 10 years of investment and a lot of work that was done, we still have a lot of people who weren't supported at the very lower levels of skills to bring them up to the level from which they would really benefit. So there was quite a lot of waste there. So I'd think about looking at how the system can incentivize participation, how it can incentivize engagement as a first step, and, you know, just getting people engaged in learning before worrying too much about, you know, whether they're doing a you know, formal qualification or not. Because I think some of the wider outcomes that you get from that participation in basic skills learning are actually really, really valuable. And it doesn't always have to be around a qualification straight away. Qualifications are really important, and to demonstrate your skills to an employer or for further study. But I think, you know, they actually can act as a barrier as well for some learners taking their first steps back into learning. So you need to be really careful about what the funding incentivizes in terms of the delivery. I think there's a big role for public funding in terms of capacity building. I think that point's already been made, but, you know, encouraging partnership working and sharing information, that kind of thing, maybe that's actually a bit easier to finance. And the other key role, I think, for public funding, you know, whether at a national or regional level, is around the workforce development and supporting the quality, whether that's being something that's delivered by NGOs or being delivered by publicly funded services. I think there's a role there in supporting the capacity of the workforce and ensuring that they have the skills to deliver this provision as effectively as possible, regardless of whether they are what source of funding they are using for the service delivery.
Thank you very much. I am just so happy this is recorded, and I actually realized I never checked with the organizers if they're recording it, but hopefully yes, because we couldn't have more valuable inputs, and we have came across the type of effects which are counteracting each other as you describe it, and we have a very heavy influence in the public discussion and the understanding of the importance of qualifications and vocational skills and labor market skills without understanding that these are not accessible without basic skills. I think our colleagues from the Labor Office know that. But we have hands raised, and I think first was Claudius and then Marta.
Okay, just one point to the funding. In 2008, I was responsible in Academy of Education for testing more than 100,000 people that were registered as job seekers. It was called the diagnostic of unemployed, bilančná diagnostika. And the problem was that there were many illiterate persons, low-skilled persons, because these were long-term unemployed people. And the problem was that the government changed and the results were not used. So there was no follow-up. And my point is that I could see many problems arising from these situations in the field of adult education in Slovakia, that we have many changes of Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, and so on. And I think it's our task now to be more serious with our roundtables on adult learning, to be those people who are active for years, who are taking serious steps, not just new ones that appear at the ministries and so on. I'm not talking about this group now, but the problem is that we are missing systematic, well-designed financial tool for adults to participate in adult learning, and the very good possibility is now the Recovery and Resilience Facility, RRF, where this instrument was proposed, the instrument of individual learning accounts. But yeah, we should. I think we should try to give it back, because it's connected with finances, and it's not then dependable on the government if it changes or not. And yeah, I think we should try to be this ILA, this individual learning accounts, to be socially driven, not just to be driven by economy, and to be accessible for those low-skilled people that we are talking about, not just for employed people, not just for registered on unemployment offices. So I think we should use this possibility for capacity building, for creating criteria, for institutions, for lecturers, and so on. This is something that maybe will not be repeated. So yeah, that's my point on funding.
Thank you, Claudius. And now Marta, and then Edita.
Okay, thank you. I just thought that we should bring up also the topic or the whole framework that was set up within this idea of helping the underdeveloped regions. Yeah, because under this scheme, there were action plans designed for each of the regions. And of course, one of the problems that was tackled was the unemployment, and among the unemployed people, we definitely have a number of low-skilled people. And one of the measures was to set up training centers. And as far as I know, in some of the regions, these training centers were closed before they started operating because they did not have clients, or I don't exactly know what happened. One of the problems might be that they were deemed to be for requalifications and the people needed something before that. Nevertheless, the whole idea must have been backed up by some funds. So if this idea maybe was brought up with a different content, I mean the idea of setting up training centers, maybe something could happen with that money allocated for training. Thank you.
Thank you, and Edita, and then Darwell.
Thank you. I also want to react on that question about the structural funds, but maybe from a little bit different point of view. As I'm not sure whether that's the right tool. Like in general, I think structural funds are a good tool to pilot some projects, but they are not systematic help or support, right? And if there is a strategy how to use them in the field of education, as Mr. Skrapski from the Plenipotentiary Office mentioned, then that's great. But my fear is that if it doesn't go through national projects, which are a bit more free from this administration burden and maybe other conditions that must be met by recipients, then NGO sector or NGOs as a providers and recipients can encounter really big problems with running projects. And I'm speaking from my own experience. For recipients, there are really very demanding conditions that must be met. And I think that is really a problem for small NGOs that are not maybe, or they don't have maybe such capacities as those bigger ones. So I just wanted to raise this.
Thank you. Darwell, and then actually I will ask Miška Modronova, because I think you were not here at the beginning, or I oversaw you. In that case, I apologize. But first, Darwell, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to a really important point that Marta made, and I think it's important to think about the outreach and how we engage the people from the target groups in local communities, especially the people who would have been removed from school systems and don't access services, and probably for many, many years. And sometimes they have fear of formal services, and like anything to do with the government, they had a fear of. And I think one thing that works really well in Ireland, and I genuinely think it would work anywhere, is this open door policy. I'm sure it's already happening on the ground in some places in your country and across all the partners here. It's having that local centre where people feel like it is a safe space, that the door is open. And by that, I mean, it's not advertised as a formal training center. It's somewhere where people know every Tuesday and Thursday you can come in and get a free cup of tea or coffee and biscuits. There's maybe a really nice person who works there from the local community. And if you have a question about a letter that you have that you want someone to explain what it means, or you want to come in and learn how to use a computer, or to send an email, or to do crafts, like really basic things that somebody comes in once and they realize that nobody asked them personal questions. It was very friendly, very kind, and that went well. Then they tell their friends, and then the next person comes in. And I know this might seem like something simple, but I know from growing up in a community, I grew up in a very poor working class community with people who had been out of school since they were 13, 14 years of age, and very mixed with like our version of the Roma community in one way is the traveller community in Ireland. And we would have had a lot of people from that community where I lived as well. And having that space, even for example, my own mother went to our local centre and she wouldn't have had any college education or anything. It's somewhere where people can come in and feel safe to have a cup of tea, have a conversation. Then they come back and they start doing workshops. Maybe they can bring their children in and their children do a class. Even engaging parents through the children first quite often works well, providing like free homework support. Then the parents start asking, can I learn to read? Would you help me to do that? In my experience before, I worked with the traveller community in Ireland on different programs. And one of the things that I found worked really well was when you offered parent support with helping with their children's homework, because most of the time, a lot of the mothers, it's terrible to say, but they don't prioritize themselves, they prioritize their children. So they will come forward with motivation to help their children and improve their family circumstance, and they'll do it that way. So I think the outreach is really important by saying that it is something that is free, something fun, and something in the local community. And if you can maybe get like champions from the local community, whether you pay someone to be there one day a week even, or they knock on doors and they invite people in, it just breaks down so many barriers. And I think if you put the time and effort in to do that for a few months or a year first, you'll see a massive change in engagement from local communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Darwell. Marta, can you wait just a second? I will try to get in Mishka. Mishka, are you online? You were not there. I am.
Sorry, I just didn't lower my hand. It's
okay.
Done.
So Mishka, we did the introduction because Mishka is not only one of the experts of the project, but also one of the few people who have long-term experience with the target group working in the field with her organization. And Mishka, we started the round by everybody having a reflection on what could be the role of the public sector, especially Ministry of Education, in supporting and initiating the basic skills programs.
Thank you. Thank you for lovely introduction, Ivanka. You are the best in this. I apologize, I couldn't find the link in the beginning, so I was just stalking you on YouTube. But I listened almost to everything. I'm very much inspired by the traveler's experience, which reminds me a little bit of, in a small range, it reminds me of the work of our community centers. These centers where people feel safe and they can come with children and they can get some kind of support, and their children can do their homeworks. Unfortunately, this works only in Roma communities, not for all, and the capacities of these centers are very, very much limited, but it works like that. Which I wanted to add, there were so many things I wanted to react on. Firstly, that's a good idea to aim more on the less developed regions, as Mrs. Jendekova, I guess you mentioned it before. That's a great idea, but in our experience with employment, it is always that these people travel to developed regions, and then they cannot really use the government support because they can apply for the active labor policies only in their region where they come from, not in Bratislava region, for example, in the Western Slovakia, where there is so many job opportunities in general. So this is the first thing which is not really working well. From my point of view, the second thing already mentioned is the funding for NGOs. which have no really capacities to survive without systematic funding after all. And all the projects have to bring some innovation, so you can never develop your previous experiences. You always have to bring something new. But then where is the time for improving what you already experienced? So there is a lot of questioning. And also, as I had the chance, and I was so lucky to be the part of the project. It was a great project, and I also think that methodology which came from the project is great. And I've been also the part of the training team for the labor offices, for the counselors. And for me, we missing the step 2. We already know how to evaluate the basic skills, how to assess them, but we have no plan how to develop them. And I don't think that, for example, for our marginalized Roma communities, it will work that go to some center, education center. I still mention it, I still repeat myself, that it's always better to come closer to them and provide these trainings maybe in the environment they are used to, or maybe they feel safe there, as already been mentioned in Ireland with travelers, which I think is a great idea, and we could just copy paste it in our conditions in some meaning. And I totally agree that for low skilled people, mostly from these are Romas from the excluded communities, they really need to feel safe, first of all. And the thing, the public offices, the labor offices, maybe cannot provide them with coffee or tea, or maybe even they cannot provide them with computer where they could do some job search, which they cannot do at home because they have no computers, they have no access to internet. So there is a lot of things for the group of our clients where we need to get the level of improvement.
Thank you, Mishka. Thank you very much. And we have Alex who wants to react.
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to come in on the point about outreach, and I agree with so much of what's just been said, and I was particularly struck by the point that Derval made about parents prioritizing their children, and maybe that being a key way of tapping into people's motivations. And I think that in turn, there's obviously the structure of outreach and where it takes place and the spaces and the contexts in which you engage people. But that kind of got me thinking about the content of what you engage people with as well. So I think both of those need to be given attention, really, because, I think quite often learning providers in particular are a little bit guilty of marketing courses and qualifications, and they are not actually very good at selling the benefits of what these courses and qualifications, if there are qualifications, what the learning will actually do for people and how it will transform their lives. And there needs to be more of a focus on that, of marketing and outreach. So, I think trying to tell somebody that, oh, they didn't, do very well in maths at school, so why don't you come to training now in maths, is not really a very engaging offer. But if you phrase it, if you put it around supporting children in school, then that's a very different thing. And a lot of the work that we've done has shown that you need to start with those motivations that are relevant to people's lives, and that, I think, links on to the content of a basic skills intervention. And you need to have a broad-based basic skills program that isn't just a narrowly framed literacy course or a narrowly framed maths course. You need to try and bring in some of these wider elements as well. Obviously, if somebody cannot read or write at all, there's a big chunk of learning there that they've got to do, but you kind of need to, and that requires specialist teaching and so on. But I think it's totally possible to link that with a much wider range of skills and capabilities. And that's something that I would recommend looking at the EAEA Life Skills for Europe project for, where we set out a broad range of life skills and capabilities, not just literacy, not just maths and digital skills, but actually looking at interpersonal skills, looking at environmental health and civic and financial capabilities, And those wider life skills, the bits around personal finances, your health, those are the bits that really engage adults and make them want to learn. When they can see a connection to something in their life that they can improve, that's how I think you then hook people in to perhaps go on to some more formal learning to address their literacy, to address their maths, whatever else it might be that they need.
Thank you, Alex. I have to say that this has also come out from our mapping exercise with respondents from different areas, exactly in this context that for low skilled, it makes no sense to limit the basic skills to the basic components or definition of basic skills as literacies plus maybe digital skills. It needs to be a concept that really helps them to improve their situation gradually. And we have Darwil, then Mishka and Jan. Darwil?
My hand is still up from before, sorry.
Okay, good. So Mishka, go ahead.
I'm still on and off with this microphone. That was great what Alex just said. That was the part of what has to be in the trainings or what has to be in the development plans. For me, in our communities, it is very difficult to work with motivation of the clients. As I mentioned in the video before, which I apologize for, there I mentioned the thing that if these our clients, they don't find the added value in the education, they don't think it's for them really necessary, so it's difficult to motivate them. So if we talk about some kind of getting new skills, we need some kind of pre-training, which is these elementary skills, but it also doesn't mean for our clients that they have to feel all the expectations in the basic skills, because some of them they maybe will never use in their lives. So for them it has to be something really very connected with their maybe future job. Yeah, so for our clients, it will be very difficult to engage them in all the parts of numeracy literacy we really want from them. This is our first question, was what has to be the part of these trainings. And the second question for me, I apologize if you already mentioned it, is who will do these trainings? It definitely cannot be the teachers from elementary schools who were not able to engage kids at schools and they dropped out early, or maybe they did not finish their grade elementary, and it has to be. This is also the matter of question in Slovakia. Who will be responsible for education of adults? We have strong andragogies here also. I've seen not only Claudius, but also Mr. Lukács. But this is the question. Who will it be? If it has to be a kind of social worker experience or social worker background, because we work with most of the time with disadvantaged groups in Slovakia, Romas, it might be, I don't know, refugees or whoever. So what is the background of the teacher, of the trainer?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mishka. And I will now give word to Jan and then Luba.
Yes, thank you. I think the discussion now is going in a little bit in the direction of your next bullet point when we talk about what kind of skills should be given priority. And also in connection with what we discussed earlier, the importance of avoiding the formal school system in adult education. And for me, this is one of the most important things, because when we discuss this, it will always, and it's very important that these are depending on the target groups and the context. I always get a little unpleasant when I hear words like curriculum or manuals in adult education, because for me, the key question is always to ask the people, for example, what is reading and writing for you in your daily life? Is in the social life or in work life? For example, in Norway, we work with workers who, when I speak to managers in factories, and say that we can offer basic skills training in reading and writing, they very often say, oh, my workers, they can read and they can write. But when we ask the question to them, what is reading and writing for you, and what is the difficulties with reading and writing in your daily work, we get the correct answers. And we have to pinpoint the training to the answers. And what is digital skills, for example, for you in daily life? Is it helping your child with schoolwork, or is it pay your bills on the digital bank? It's the different answers, but the answers are very important when we talk about framing and adapting the correct training to the target groups.
Thank you very much. I will just have a technical comments in terms of the bullet points and questions, because the discussion developed of actually responding to all of questions after the first. I left the discussion going, and it very naturally covered most of the topics, so I will just step in later to make sure that we really covered all. And now I will let in Ljubica.
Thank you. I would like to add to Jan's comment that the discussion goes to a follow-up project, so we are ready for that. But just to clarify our position and our intentions behind this project, we are aware of this broader context of different skills necessary for life and for being a good and content citizen and person. But when drafting the project, we needed to start somewhere, so that's why we focused on this first set of skills. But yes, we are aware that we need to look also at other skills to support literacies as such, and we also we've been also waiting for the new recommendation on life skills, which should appear soon. Yeah, this is what we take into consideration, and we are ready to work on that. And I would like to strongly agree with, now I'm not sure, with Jan or Alex, who mentioned necessity of campaigning around basic skills, because lack of basic skills is accompanied with different stigmas and bad feelings and shame and not enough understanding from the mainstream society and so on. So I think that the funding programs should take into consideration this aspect of explanation of the importance of this of the development of this sets of skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me maybe take the word myself now. Maybe not all, as you mentioned, not all of you saw my presentation, but just to provide the connecting context. In Slovakia, we have about 8 and something % of people with low level of skills, which is very good compared to other countries. It's one of the best positions. It's about 500,000 people, so it's not that. So it's quite a loss. No, it doesn't make counts. Never mind. In any case, it's relatively good position, but in terms of unemployment rate of low skilled, we are the worst in the European Union. So clearly there is a big problem. I just in an analytical way interpreted, because this group has not been the biggest problem we had for decades, large, very high rates of unemployment. That's why they a bit fell behind in terms of policy focus. And I think the policy campaigns need to target the whole population, because if we only target bringing the awareness of the target group that we need to educate, but then the majority population doesn't recognize the need and the benefits of having every citizen educated, then it's really difficult to keep keep the policy intervention supported by different, as the politics cycles go, and we are a bit confronted with this. So just to share you my experience, very recent one, I was very happy to see Jan's presentation. It was very inspiring also to have completely different point of view employers, because we wrote a component on basic skills and had the first responses from employers, industrial association, and literally they wrote that low-skilled people don't need literacy trainings. They just need basic vocational skills to be able to work. Really, I have it written as a proof. It's sad, but I understand. They haven't been thinking about it. We know you saw the employers today, so we know that employers who employ low-skilled know very well that they need support in getting to basic skills, because employers cannot do it all. They would need some external support. But for me, that was kind of also a sign of the general, maybe superficial, because that was not but perception. No, those people who there was even written, those who don't know Slovak well, they just need some vocational skills. So it was completely incomprehensible, but it represents a big share of opinion of actors who have a say in the adult learning. They have a say in negotiating different documents or support schemes. So that was just to a bit boost the discussion and give you a bit of a local context that we need to raise awareness in general. And we need to, it's a long way to go, but of course, the practice needs to develop to also improve the terminology. The terminology doesn't live by itself. It has to be practiced to have a meaning behind it. So I believe that's the way to go. I have hands raised by Mishka and Jan. I wonder if they're real hands or you forgot to raise them down. Mishka, do you want to speak?
My hand is real.
Oh, very good.
I just wanted to react to what you said. The truth is that some of the employers really, as I mentioned, and you also mentioned it now, some of the employers really declare that they don't need numerous literacy. Like in general, they need people to be skilled, like manually skilled. Some of them. That's true, but for their everyday life, literacy and numeracy is necessary. That's what we know. We think it's life skills, but we are still talking about adults who are adults now. But we should really think back, or should really think about children who are now finishing their compulsory education age, like it's 16 years, and they drop out early. They don't finish their grade. We have the European Commission made the research in 2016, and according to this research, 61% of Roma women and 54% of Roma men drop out of education early before finishing the actual grade. And we are not talking about the university grade. In very rarely we are talking about high school, but most of the time we are talking about elementary education. So I think hand in hand, we have to think not only about upskilling of the actual adults, but also about really empowering the elementary education system. I know that the inclusive education part of Ministry of Education is getting stronger now, but we really need to think about prevention of early dropouts and on support with some tutoring activities with actual students, because in 2-3 years we will have another low-skilled people who will have problems with elementary literacy and numeracy.
Thank you, Mishka. Of course, totally agree. We believe this could be a component or stressed by the umbrella lifelong learning strategy, that there are different strategies addressing this, and that this is made sure that to make that happen, we need to think about all the components of it and all life stages that there are. And I have to say that some countries measure adult learning from the point of finishing compulsory education. So not from 20 or 25, but in our case it's 16. I don't know, in Belgium it's 18 because they have 18 years old, so the country systems are different. But now I give word to Jan.
Thank you. Just a short comment, Ivana, because I'm an old man. I've been working in this field for many, many, many years. And I can remember very well hearing just the same things that you said now in Norway. But that was 10, 15 years ago. And there is a big shift now all over the world, not only in Europe. There's a big shift in the industry. And the development of the industry is different from country to country, of course. But take, for example, when I grew up, my mother used to say that the garbage man is coming on Friday to collect the garbage. If I use the word garbage today in the recycling business, they throw me out of the offices. The workers who are really working with recycling today, they are highly skilled workers and they need to be highly skilled. And this development in Norway has been from the last 3-4 years. Today, they need to have a formal competence on a totally different level. And those employees who understand this development as early as possible, those are the employees who will lead in the future. That's why I thought that the 3 examples from the businesses today was very good. This should be ambassadors for others. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this, and also for the numbers and years you mentioned. It gives us an idea about the reality. And we are aware that we are trying to leapfrog, but this is policy learning, right? We try to learn to be able to jump over the stages that are not necessary, but maybe it will not be possible. But now I give word to Mishka.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit pushy, I know. I absolutely agree with what Jan said, and I'm sure that we are in the stage, but I think that it's always better to employ low-skilled people and teach them while they are in the process. Because our clients, to motivate our clients to study without having safe job and having money to feed their kids, it's very difficult to motivate them. So I think that this model that place and train, not train and place as we have in Slovakia, but the place and train model, where you really take low-skilled people and you motivate them while they are working, and you give them the opportunity to maybe grow. Sorry, maybe grow in their jobs and also personally grow. That's the model which could also work here. But I'm still happy for these employers who give the chance to very, very low-skilled citizens, because for them it's the only chance they can get the job at the moment.
Totally agree. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Vanikova, not Etela, but Barbara, I think. I will know your family now.
Yes, thank you. I would like to support what Mishka just said, and also Jan. I think that this shift is possible also through employment in public sector services. We, at the Planning for Potential Office, we implement projects, and we already started with this, for example, in the educational sector. We employ through the national project, that's the pity, but we started to employ low qualified people from Roma communities in positions in educational process, such as family assistant or any kind of assistant. And this also happens in social services, in community centers, and so on. And I also think that this is the best way, give people to be employed and let them learn by doing. Very simple. And I would like to also comment on what Jan said about curriculum, that it perhaps is no more needed. I disagree with this, because once we are talking about learning process, that's that is something what needs curriculum, maybe not this formal curriculum like forms are predicted and methods and everything, but what is the problem is that we are not able to identify learning needs. That's the key point, to know, better identify learning needs of these low-skilled people and unemployed people, and then to set up good educational goals. And once we are talking about needs, learning needs and goals, then we are definitely talking about curriculum as well. And one more, about what Mishka said, like who should do this building basic skills or learning. I believe that this is something for, once we are talking about adult learning, then it's the sector of adult education. And I think andragogy or adult education still has a huge role and huge opportunity to be more present in working with this target group, what we are talking today about. And also what is needed, and based on our experience, is intersectorial cooperation. Because when we were talking about Roma are prioritizing their children, then we definitely need school, where school is a very good facilitator to engage parents. And we can set up programs for adults, for parents, but as someone said, teacher, like primary school teacher is not, or pre-primary school teacher is not able to pay attention to adults. I mean, in a sense of learning them and achieving their goals. So some cooperation between adult educational sector, social sector, and also formal education, primary, secondary, is very appreciated, and this is something what is really working. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan?
I'll try to be very short. I just want to comment on Etela, because I remember from the conference, somebody used the word profiles. And I like the word profiles when you are planning basic skills training. Don't talk about curriculum. Talk about the profiles and combine the profiles with work guidance. Somebody mentioned career guidance in the conference. I don't like that word career guidance so much. That reminds me of somebody who is on the top. But talk about career work guidance and combine it with profiles. In Norway, we have a very good system that is accessible also in English from Skills Norway, where we have made profiles connected to a big number of different work groups, saying exactly what every work group needs in digital training, reading and writing, etc. This is linked directly to the work task they do. I think this is better than having a curriculum from top. It ensures that things is coming from bottom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will give words to Mr. Škrabský, but before that, I would like to respond because I understand both sides on the word of on the topic of teachers, and I was very aware of this important topic, and I did not include it because it's a very sensitive topic in Slovakia. We have a tendency to formalize, to have kind of idea of formal requirements on teachers. I I think this comes with the practice. I think andragogs can be excellent, which is the case of Mishka in the field, who I believe is by her formation andragog, but they can be also very formal and not have the real skills to work with people in the field. So I think, and my experience with other countries is that adult skills are usually provided by non-formal organizations, not very formalized, but who prove to be able to have the outreach, to work with the target group and to achieve the goals, to the educational targets. So that is very important. And but I do believe, as you say, without a practice, it's very hard to discuss this. And I myself will go more along with Jan saying, yes, let's pay attention to what needs to be achieved. But maybe we are talking about the same things, just in different languages. And now I give word to Mr. Skrapski.
Thank you very much. I wanted to comment on one remark that was mentioned here, and it's about the social economical context, for example, in our Roma communities. I think, Mishka, you mentioned that it's very difficult to find the motivation for our clients if you at the same time have a very basic needs, like you need to find a food for children, you have to go for drinking water because you don't have one, you don't have electricity, and so on and so on. We published last year in our office a survey, representative survey on the living conditions in our marginalized Roma communities. More than half of inhabitants of the Roma communities live from €3 per day. What I want to say is that finding the motivation for upskilling in these communities, I think, must go hand in hand with some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, that you are guiding these people through some kind of a process of getting the basic skills, and they know why they want to have those basic skills, that there is something at the end which will make their situation better. This is very vicious circle in these communities, and that's why I wanted to say that this social economical context is also in some communities very important. Thanks.
Mishka?
Thank you. That's great. Besides that, I'm working in People in Need NGO, where we operate in 5 of these marginalized Roma communities, which 2 of them don't have access to running water, as Tibor mentioned. So that's true, that we need to firstly fill the elementary needs of the clients, but then we started to operate last year the labor agency of Banska Bystrica self-governing region, where we try to combine the commercial employment with social services and employment services. And this is the light at the end of the tunnel, as you said, that if you want to motivate clients to some upskilling activities, then we need to give them work in the end. So if we work with them and we cannot match them with some employer, then we lose them. We are losing the client. They don't stay with us for a longer period without seeing really result of the work. That's unfortunately sometimes it takes more time, and even this situation is not really happy for them. But the thing is that these processes can not always end by the light. And what you mentioned with the social economy, it's also a great tool to engage people. But I understand social economy and social enterprises as some kind of literally schooling, and then we have to move people to open labor market. It has to give them some kind of skills they did not get before, work habits and also job-related skills. But sometimes I have the feeling that here it works that these people, they still stay in the social economy, or maybe they still stay in this support environment. And what we are trying to do, we are opposite. We are trying to place people directly on the open labor market and support them even after placement. Of course, we prepare them we place them and then we try to support them. And I must say that it's very difficult. It's not that difficult to get them a job, but keep them in the job. That's the most difficult, because then they come to these everyday problems also with the missing skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have last 15 minutes and something, and we covered most of my bullet points, as Jan said. And there is one area which I think I will try to get some responses or some ideas from you. We have, I mean, the discussion on the teachers has been a bit part of this area, but I have included quality and monitoring of the basic skills programs because we are starting them, and we want to suggest or present some ideas for basic skills programs funded by public funding. There will be, we need to address quality and monitoring. My view is that it's really important to find a smart way how this, how not to make it too formalized, too regulated, how to make it, you know, feasible, flexible, so that the courses, so that really with the very difficult learners, the teachers have enough time and flexibility to achieve the learning outcomes. So of course the tool to assess the skills is the first step, because you do it at the beginning, you do it at the end, and you hope that there has been a progress. So that's one part of it. But do you have some easy advices on this that could be maybe tested in Slovakia, where we are starting? We're really at the starting line with the basic skills programs. Any ideas? Welcome, probably from our international participants. Yeah. How it has been done?
My experience from Norway and working with the basic skills program for adults for many years, this has been a question many times. And I remember some years ago they tried to have this monitoring before and after. And it was not a big success. Me personally, I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I like people talking about their experience, talking about what this meant for them. And with today's technology to make small videos, even using your iPhone, and let people talk from the heart, what it meant for them, it's maybe the best marketing and monitoring of success. And this goes both for participants and for maybe employers, I mean, sorry. This is what we use a lot, at least.
Thank you very much. It's also a very good material for public campaigns.
Yes, and I think it is important, again, we have already spoken about this, avoid stigmatization. Let the people stand up and be proud. And it's so easy to do it. Make them ambassadors for the project. And I mean, this is what you can do. You can do it in 10 minutes and it can be online in 15 minutes. So.
Thank you. Claudius, you raised your hand. Thank you, Jan.
Yes, thank you. What I would like to say is that when we were doing the mapping, there was almost nothing to be mapped in this area, because I think the problem is that there is a lot of theory on how to become a community worker, a social worker, or social andragogue, and we have kind of standards. We have education, prepared education for those people who can be acting effectively in this field. but there is no jobs in this field because there is no systematic funding. There are no institutions that can survive. I was for 12 years working in Academy of Education, which was like, for example, Volkshochschulen in Austria or Germany, or similar to community centers in northern countries. But this Academy of Education that has more than 60 years of tradition disappeared. There was no support from state, and it was present in all areas of Slovakia, but it couldn't survive. There were experts, there were people that were connected with local governments, with employees, with labor offices, and so on. And we in Slovakia, we let disappear this kind of institution that has experiences, and now we are having nothing to map. We should I think make this capacity building again and try to establish these community centers, and it can be done only when there is a systematic funding, because those people still live there that were able to do the community work, kind of guidance for low-skilled people, diagnostics, and so on. It's not 20 years ago. As I was mentioning, we were running these kind of programs 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, the problem is that there wasn't never financial support for this. And I think it will never be a successful project if there will be no sustainable financing. That's for me.
Thank you very much. From my point of view, I think we have covered, as it was possible, the topics suggested for the roundtable discussion. I would just like to explain that we would send you a report based on the individual contributions today, and the idea is that we will produce a report as additional evidence from the project, because we have so little of it. So we will send the report to you if you want to add anything or change anything from what has been included, which would be most likely the transcription of your contributions during this roundtable. And then that's it for this roundtable. We're very grateful that you have accepted and you have devoted time to this. And maybe I will give the last words to Lubica, to the project coordinator and project leader.
Thank you, Ivana. There is not very much to add, but to thank you, which I've already done during the day several times. But yeah, I just can repeat that the support from the partners in the project and the other organization that you contacted us with was very inspirative, and also your contributions during the project and in the discussions, even either our personal or online or today's was very helpful. And yeah, we are looking forward to further cooperation, and we are open and ready for that, as I already said. So thank you for the last time, and I hope that this is not the last time of meeting each other, and we will continue somehow in what we have started quite successfully. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.